Okay, well, let's rate a couple of TOEFL essays. Okay. Now, here's the first essay. Okay. You might have seen this one posted in the group. Okay. Now, as you know, excuse me, if you're familiar with the group, this is my process, right? I have a color code. It's green for good, yellow for error, and blue for new topic, means you were talking about pizza, pizza, pizza. Now you're talking about hamburgers, hamburgers. T, gray is transition. A smooth connection between sentences or paragraphs, etc. Excuse me. Underline is lack of development, and purple, I don't know why that's italicized. Purple is repeating, okay? There's also, I keep track of a word count. I also keep track of time, but this is mostly this is for my private students. I will ask my private students, and I will say, okay, so you wrote me this essay, right? How long did it take you? And they'll say, well, it took me 45 minutes. And I'll put 45 there just to keep track. Because remember, it's very important to identify how long it took you to write the essay, because right, if you write an essay, even if it's 31 minutes, that's too long. You have a minute extra, which means you could correct something and get a higher score. So really, it's really important to write an independent essay in 30 minutes or less. That way I can give you an accurate score. I mean, I've seen great essays that have taken 40 minutes long, but from a TOEFL perspective, that's too long. I can't give an accurate score because the student had what 33%, or they had more time to do it. So remember, if you're practicing for a TOEFL essay, 30 minutes maximum. Set a timer, okay? Set a timer. You get the handy dandy phone app, not an app, but this is a great timer. Microsoft, the App Store, great stopwatch timer. It's for free, okay? I use it when I teach my students. So when you're writing, just go right, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, then write. You have the clock right in front of you. So basically what you do is you create conditions that are just like test day. You have a timer right in front of you, okay? So, right, and then here we are, words, right? Okay, counting words is very important, right? I got a lot of questions. How many words should my essay be? Well, at least 300. There's no official rule, but in my experience, high-scoring essays usually are about 300, 400 words. You should be able to write a proficient essay, 350 words. Right. Remember, there's no rule. Okay. What you're doing is you're not demonstrating word count. For example, if your essay is 500 words, that doesn't mean you'll get a higher score, because counting words is really not a strategy. What you're aiming for is something called coherence, right? Coherence means, does your essay make sense? Okay, from beginning to end. It doesn't mean, do I agree with it? It just means, does it make sense? You mean, do I understand your opinion? Do I understand the transition into the body, into the examples, etc., etc., etc.? Okay, now this is a rubric I use. This is my rubric. A rubric is basically a list of rules, and ETS also has a rubric. The people who rate your verbal responses and your essays, your written responses, your summary, and your essay, they use a rubric. It's really not that fast and easy to use, but this is my rubric. It's based on the ETS rubric, and these are the things I look for. Okay. So how is the essay? Is it well organized, right? Do the ideas progress? Do they go from introduction to body to conclusion? How are the ideas developed in each part, in the intro, the body, and the conclusion? Does your essay demonstrate development? Topic development, examples, illustrations. What about unity? Is there topical unity? Are you focused on the same topic? Are you focused on pizza, 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 or do you change from pizza, 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 Donald Trump? That would be a change of topic, which is a no-no. You'll lose points for that, okay? Unity is also grammatical unity. Is everything making the right connections? Language use. Language use is, where are we? Language use, right? Here's language use, right? For written language use is in red. How's your vocabulary, right? Is it at the academic level? Are you using the right words? Are you using any idioms? What about synonyms? How about sentence variety? Are you using simple sentences, compound, complex, etc.? Okay. So this is my map, my rubric, my list of rules that I follow. And as you can see, whoops, where are we? Here we are, right here. Kind of took off. As you can see, there's Optal C right there. Okay. Now I don't, I don't do this for my Facebook writing group students because not all of them understand Optal C. A lot of students in my test takers in my group just show up and they don't really understand Optal C, so I don't include it with my Facebook evaluations. I just basically do that. Okay, but for my private students, oh God, here we go. Come on. But for my private students, thank you. For my private students, I will do Optal C because they understand this rubric, and this is a fast and easy way to identify what the student is doing right or what the student is doing wrong. Okay, for example, I can say Betty's my student, right? Weak language use, weak development, right? Poor organization, lack of coherence, or excellent topic development, right? I can identify each element within the essay and I can identify an accurate score, and that is the score you will get on test day. Okay. So there we go. So let's actually take a look at this essay, okay? Now, here's the prompt. Take a few seconds and read the prompt, okay? And in the chat box, tell me when you're finished reading the prompt. That's the prompt, okay? In fact, this is the prompt right there. This is the prompt that I got a month ago. Yeah. These days, there's a lot of negative news on TV and social media. Some believe that it's a good idea to stop watching negative news and take a break, while others do not. What is your position? Right. There we go. That's exactly the prompt that I had. And remember, I got 30 out of 30 on the writing section. Right. And obviously they liked this, my answer to this essay, right? Now, the key here, what I have found with a lot of TOEFL students is they really don't take time to analyze the prompt, okay? I have found this a lot. A lot of TOEFL students don't take time to read the prompt. They kind of go, these days, a lot of negative news on TV and social media. Okay, great. Should we stop watching it? Okay, great. And they don't really have time to understand the prompt. They're so nervous, they just want to start writing. So on test day, or even when you're just practicing writing an independent essay, what you need to do is you need to take time to analyze the prompt. Because if you're not aware of the topics in the prompt, then you will be off topic in the essay. You will write about a topic you think the prompt is about. And I've seen this a lot. And I mean, I used to do it when I was back in high school and university. You get so nervous, oh my God, you start writing something which you think the question is about, but then, when someone takes a look at it, they will say, well, maybe it's not really about the prompt. You're not answering the prompt. So there's the prompt, okay? There's a lot of negative news on TV. Negative news. Can you think of negative news? What is negative news? First of all, what is negative news? Well, you just have to think of Donald Trump. He's just pure negative news, right? Everything the guy does is negative, right? Yeah, don't get me going about Donald Trump. Anyway, he's just the devil incarnate. Anyway, obviously, I didn't vote for the guy. So negative news. Okay, so notice. So there is the topic. The very first sentence introduces the main topic, right? Negative news, right? That's the main topic. Negative news on TV and social media, right? However you want to get your news. So it doesn't really matter here. News is everywhere, right? So here is basically the compare and contrast, right? The choice. Some believe that it's a good idea to stop watching negative news and take a break. So basically turn the TV off and take a break, while others do not. Others think, yeah, no problem. Just keep watching negative news. No problem. Okay. So what is your position, right? What is your choice? What is your position? Okay. You have to choose between these opposites. Okay. Now here is the essay below here. Now, let's. I'll let you read it, but just let me talk a little bit about essay formatting. Okay. Now, if I pull back, you can see that, you know, look at this essay. It's really hard to know where the paragraphs begin, where the introduction ends. You can't see. In other words, remember we're talking about organization, right? Organization. So just as a visual representation, the organization, it's hard to see it. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's not organized. It's just that remember that you are writing for raters. Raters are humans, and writers like raters. Humans, the human mind likes to see spaces. Okay, a transition between words and text. Now look what I'm going to do here. Okay, so there is the introduction. I can tell because here we have a thesis. We'll come back to this. Okay, that's the intro. Notice this white space I'm putting here. Okay, suddenly it's a lot easier to read. Oh my God, there's the introduction. Okay, much easier to read. Okay, so where is body paragraph one? I think it's right there. Okay, now look at suddenly by putting a white space between each part of the essay, suddenly organization becomes clear. Oh, okay. Now remember, the raters will like this. Okay, it's easier to read. The raters have a clear idea of what you're doing. In fact, this is internet style formatting. With internet, with hold on a second here. Yeah, okay. Right. So what I'm doing here is, as you can see, what I have done is I've put a space between each body paragraph, and look how much easier it is to read. Okay. Now, I used to write, I used to be a university professor and I used to teach writing, and spaces, for some reason, the human mind and my human mind likes to know when things begin and when they end. Separators, okay? And a fast and easy way to do that, demonstrate organization, is to put a white space between each body paragraph. Look at that. And we go like that. And now this essay is so much easier to read. Okay. Oh my God. So there we are. Okay. How many we got? One, two. Yeah, I think these are four body paragraphs. Okay. Look at that. Much easier to read. Okay. So yeah. So just from a visual point of view, this essay demonstrates organization. Oh, okay, organization. Good so far, right? You can see it. It's got obviously an introduction, two body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Good. So it's a first impression, which is very good. Okay. Very simple trick. So it's a formatting trick. Okay. Very, very useful. Now this is if you are writing an essay for a college or university, you would do different types of formatting, etc. We won't get into that. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that raters are humans, and because they're humans, they have the same mind as we do, and our minds like to see spaces between sections, right? It gives us an idea of how something is organized. Okay. Now it's actually easier to read now. Okay. So let's take a few seconds. Okay. And what I want you to do is read this essay for me. How many words is it? Let's have a check here. Whoops. 292. That's pretty good. Yeah, 300. That's a good range. No problem. Okay, so take a few seconds and read this essay. I think that's all the parts. Yeah, read this essay and let me know when you're finished in the chat box. Okay. Okay, let's push on. So the very first thing we look at is the introduction. Okay, now I can actually, believe it or not, the very first sentence tells me almost everything I need to know about the essay. Okay, so look at this one, sentence line number 7 here. Where are we? Right, make it a bit bigger. Whoops, control, there we go. Well, right. So many people watch news to get informed of what's happening around them. That is a pretty good sentence. That tells me this person has a very good understanding of grammar so far. Okay. So that's pretty good. We'll give that a green. Okay. Wow. Yet a lot of them ignore the fact that the news is either overstated or understated or not broadcasted at all. Wow. That's pretty good too. No mistakes. In fact, what happens with this sentence is it's actually demonstrating language use, sentence variety. This is actually a parallel sentence. Because as you can see, it says yet a lot of them ignore the fact that news is either overstated, right? Overstated or understated, right? Or not broadcasted at all. That's actually a very high level sentence. That is pretty good. Wow, so far so good. Okay, so these first two sentences tell me that this student is definitely in the 4 range or above so far. I know exactly almost what the score will be by the time that I reach the end of the introduction. Thus, it's better to get a break. Yeah, get a break. We would actually say take a break. Okay. No big deal. It's just a word choice issue, right? Language use. Whoops. I don't want to do that, right? Take a break. Okay. This is better to take a break from watching news. So that's really not a big deal. That's not a game changer. That's just, if I told the student use take instead of get, they'd go, okay, great, they'd get that, okay? So in this essay, I'll explain further the reasons why I agree with the statement above, right, okay? So this introduction is very well written, extremely well written, okay? And there's really only one issue. Okay, and that issue is, well, if actually I would I'd probably say about to, but remember, so what I'm doing is I'm actually analyzing this essay step by step. I'm doing an analytical process. The raters don't rate analytically, they rate holistically. They'll look at this introduction from a big picture point of view and go, yeah, that's pretty good actually. These little errors do not limit coherence. So far, this essay is a 5 out of 5. Okay, but let's take a closer look, okay? So the prompt talks about negative news, right? That's the topic, okay? Negative news, okay? And it's about taking a break from negative news. Now, this writer talks about overstated news, which means repeating it too many times. It's just emphasizing it too much, like repeating, I don't know, something stupid Donald Trump said, right? Or understated, not stated enough. Okay. Or it's not broadcasted at all. Right. Okay. Now, what connection is news saying repeating the same thing too many times, you're not talking about it at all, or not even showing it at all? What's the connection between these 3 ideas and negative news? Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. And then what happens is from this sentence, line number 9, this writer transitions into, thus it's better to take a break from watching the news. This is also a transition problem. I'm not exactly sure what the connection is between this sentence, overstating or understating or not broadcasting news and all, and taking a break from it. So even though this paragraph is very well written, there are some issues, namely, the big one is lack of topical unity between where we are here, right? The lack of topical unity between, negative news, right? I mean, you're talking about overstated news. Overstated news is not negative news. It's a different process. A negative news is not understated news. Negative news is I'm not sure what the connection is between not broadcasting news at all, right? Okay. So basically what's happening here, even though this paragraph is very well written, there's a lack of topical unity between what the writer is talking about and the question in the prompt. Okay. And then there's also a transition, a lack of transition, a lack of connection between these three ideas: overstated news, understated news, and not broadcasted at all, and taking a break. I'm not really sure the connection. Okay. So this introduction, even though it's very well written, demonstrates lack of topical unity and transitional unity too. So that means it drops from a 5 to about a 4. Okay, but you have to read on to see what happens. Okay. One of the main reasons why I agree with the statement above is that almost all journalists work for particular organizations, thus they only broadcast the news that serves their organization's interests. Very well written. Okay, but it's not on topic, right? We're talking about, how journalists work, right? How journalists work, how journalists operate, right? And they only broadcast the news that serves their purpose. Well, but what kind of news is that? Is that negative news or is that good news? What kind of news are they broadcasting? Okay, let's read on a bit. Okay, for instance, recently as Algeria in this case it would be underwent, small issue, underwent a political crisis because of the handicapped old president who proposed himself to the new presidential election. Okay, let's read this again. So for instance, for example, good, she's going to talk about, or he's going to talk about news that only serves their interests. Okay, for instance, recently, as Algeria underwent a political crisis, we'd get rid of this, right? Algeria underwent a political crisis because of the handicapped old president who proposed himself to the new presidential election. Okay, so great. Okay, we're talking about an old man running for office. Okay, great. Although all Algerians would be struck, past tense, struck peacefully against this president and his followers, the Algerian TV didn't cover that news as if nothing happened. Okay. Right. Okay, that's interesting, but what is the connection between that and negative news and taking a break from negative news? Okay, so once again, we see a lack of topical connection between the prompt and the what's happening in body paragraph 1. Okay, in body paragraph 1, the writer's just talking about not broadcasting news. It has nothing about taking a break from it. Taking a break or continuing to watch it. So in other words, even though the writer can express his or herself quite well in some instances using language use, L, you can see it's off topic. It's not even close to the prompt. Okay. So far you can see blue. Blue is the lack of topical unity. Okay. Well, let's continue on. So far this essay is probably about a 3.5. Okay, it's definitely dropped from the promising beginning to a lack of topical unity, which is beginning to show itself. Okay. Well, let's read on. 18, the fact that the journalists work for the interests of some organization, it makes it evident that the news is not told as it has happened, but it is told in a way that serves the interests of that particular organization. Yeah, okay, interesting, but that's off topic. I'm still not sure about the idea of taking a break from negative news. Okay. Definitely off topic. Thus, the journalists are either understanding or overstating the news. Okay, here we are back to her thesis, right? Actually, her thesis is here. Thus, it's better to take a break from watching news. Okay. So she's actually she's not, in this sentence, she hasn't really addressed her thesis. So this is her thesis, right? Right. So she believes it's better to take a break from watching the news. Well, she didn't mention taking a break in body paragraph 1. She just talked about how an old president wants to run for office again, and the news didn't cover it. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, how about next paragraph, right? So these journalists, right? The fact that journalists work for interests of some organizations journalists. Like what are we talking about? TV organizations, TV stations. It makes evident that news is not told as it happened, but it's told in a way that serves the interests of a particular organization. This is too general. I'm not exactly sure what organization this is. Okay, is this a government organization? Right. Thus, journalists are either understating or overstating the news. All right. Okay. Great. Well, what about taking a break from the news? I'm still looking for that idea of taking a break, or not taking a break. Okay. I remember in let's continue. I remember seeing toe two. I guess that's two, right? Two pictures of journalists broadcasting the snowy weather. The first one showed him in snow above the hip. The other picture shows the journalist from far. Yeah. So basically, they're talking about the weather. Okay, they're talking about the weather. I'm not sure. This is one of the tricks journalists do to dupe people. So as you can see, blue is suddenly, our code blue is suddenly appearing. Okay. So at this point, I really don't need to read on. Okay. But by this point, I know that this essay is definitely off topic. That is the number one issue here, right? It's off topic. It's not answering the prompt. But let's actually continue. Let's look at the conclusion from all what's said and done. In fact, what you want to do here is you want to say after. I don't do a complete line edit here, just for time's sake. After all that's said above, it's better to stop believing all what is said in the news. Right? So the question is taking a break. The question is not believing or not believing the news. It's taking a break from the news. So as you can see, right, lots of this essay makes sense. It's coherent, but it's really talking about a different topic. Okay. So as you can see, an essay can have moments of excellent language use. It could have good moments of language use. Okay. It can be well organized. It can demonstrate a progression of ideas. You can see we have the introduction, then we move into the ideas that the writer wants to talk about. Okay. And the ideas progress from introduction to body to conclusion, which is good. We have, development is okay, but really these are non-issues, because really the number one issue here is there is a lack of topical unity. Okay, and that will, because there's a lack of topical unity, that will severely impact coherence. Okay, so here is our rubric one more time. Okay, so the essay is generally well organized. It demonstrates all aspects of optal C, but this is the problem right there. It's way off topic. Okay, it's way off topic. Okay, so how would we score this essay? What do you think? What score would we give this essay, knowing that it's off topic? Great, we'll give it a 3, right? Anybody else want to share their response? A 3, right? It's definitely not a 5. Okay, definitely not a 5, right? Definitely not a 4. Okay, so the question is, it's definitely not a 2. Okay, so this essay is probably right. Fatima gave it 24. Right. Well, let's take a look at our handy dandy TOEFL writing chart. Right. This essay, you gave it a 24, Fatima. That's pretty good. But now, look at this essay. Is this essay a little off topic, or is it really off topic? That's what you have to ask yourself. Okay. Now, is it just a little off topic, or is it really off topic? Okay. This essay is really off topic. Okay. So on test day, I would give this a 3.5. Okay. 3.5 is 22. Okay, and remember that there are a couple of raters. There's a computer, and two human raters. So the final essay score is an average of 3 scores. So it's definitely this student is probably going to score in the 3.5 range. It could be 3.75, it could be 3.25, but this is a good indication of this score. So this essay scores 3.5. Now, there's also, and I didn't really talk about language use issues, but there are a variety of language use issues, an accumulation of language use issues. There's some subjects repeating. I'm not going into every little issue, but if you study with me, I will identify every grammar mistake, every little punctuation error. I'm not doing that today. It would take too long. But this lack of topical unity, the blue, plus language use errors equals a lack of coherence. So this is probably a 3.5. This is definitely not a 4. Okay, it's definitely under 4. I'd say 3.5, within that range. Code blue in health field means having a heart attack. Yes, exactly. Code blue, right? Exactly. Code blue. This this essay This essay is having a heart attack. All right. That's very good. Code blue, right? Actually, it's code red here. Lack of coherence. Okay. So what would we tell this? Okay, so we know that. So what would I tell this test taker if he or she were my student? I would say, okay, number one problem is you're off topic. Make sure you read the prompt. Okay. Make sure you read the prompt and make sure you identify the topic, right? The topic is negative news. What about it? The controlling idea is taking a break from it. Okay. That's what this writer does not focus on. Okay. They just kind of got an idea and they ran with it. Well, I'll just talk about this idea. Okay. But as you can see upon close analysis, it's really a 3.5. Okay. But what's interesting about this essay is it started out very good. Look at all this green. It's like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. Yeah, green, green, green. Uh-oh, okay, keep going. Yeah, and then you see what happens. And suddenly it goes from code green to code blue. Okay, right. Okay, there you go. So definitely a 3.5. Okay. That is how we would score that essay. Now, I used this essay as an example to demonstrate lack of topical unity. I see this a lot in TOEFL essays. Okay, so remember, the lesson here is to read the prompt carefully, read it slowly, and make sure you're answering the question in the prompt. Also, another thing that you should do is that, and this is something this person's not writing about. Well, I guess they're writing about their own experience, but um, yeah, I would actually use examples. Well, yeah, she's writing about, or he's writing about her own examples, but right, what I would like to see in this essay are examples of negative news. Give me some examples of negative news. For example, every day I turn on the TV and I see children dying. Well, I can't watch that anymore. It makes me depressed. It makes me sad. It affects me. It affects my work. It affects my job. It just makes me depressed. I want to kill myself, et cetera, right? Give me some examples of negative news. I turn on the news and all I do is see Donald Trump screaming or combing his orange hair and he's the devil. And every time I see the devil, I want to scream, right? So really, when you see the word negative news here and that's the topic, that should be a signal for some examples of negative news, right? And negative news, it's all about cause and effect. You watch negative news, how does it affect you? Does it make you want to take a break? Yes, I just want to turn it off and go for a walk or read a book, to take a break, to take a breather, to refresh from all the negativity. Or do you just think, well, hey, I don't care. I'll just keep watching because, it really has no effect. It's just business as usual. Politicians are corrupt and there's nothing I can do about it. Or the world is going to hell. Everybody's fighting. There's nothing I can do about it. Or maybe I'm a journalist and it's my job to watch news. I don't know. Okay. This essay, you could have yeah, just a minute. So with this essay, you can have some really good examples of negative news. Right. So here the question R says, I think the main problem in this essay is that the thesis and the introduction is not clear. Well, no, it's not the thesis, right? This is the thesis, right? This is what he or she is arguing right there. Okay. That's their position. But this topic is developed or not developed. It's not developed. Therefore, there'd be a lack of development too, actually, right? Lack of topical development. Okay. Okay, thus it's better. So, in other words, she's saying, personally, I think, or he's saying, personally, it's better to take a break from watching the news. In this case, you can see this is her opinion because they've made a choice. They've made a choice, and they're about to answer that, right? But there's no idea. There's no development of actually taking a break. Okay. Right. So there's actually a lack of topical unity between their thesis here and everything that's happening in the body paragraphs. Okay. Right. Okay. So that is a pretty common error that I see, lack of topical unity. Okay. Now, interesting. Right. Now, I think I've talked about this before. Okay. Now, as you know, the TOEFL essay is scored 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Whoops, not C, but 0. Okay. Now, there we are. So basically, right, these are the score ranges. Let's move this to the center a bit. Okay. Now, I see a lot of TOEFL essays that are, make it a bit more centered there. There we are. So I see a lot of TOEFL essays that are in, that are in this range. Okay. I rarely see twos. I never see 0. Okay. I never see 1. I rarely see 2. Most TOEFL essays that I see are between 2.5 and probably, let's say, 3.5. Most of the TOEFL essays that I see are in this range. Okay. Now, a 4 on TOEFL is 25, right? It's 25. Okay. 3.75 3.75 is for pharmacists, right? Is 24. Okay. And this is 20, right? And 3.5 is, what's 3.5? 3.5 is 22. Okay. So I see essays in this, a lot of it. Most of the essays I see are in this range. Okay. So the question is, right, how do you get, the 4? Okay. How do you get 4 or above? Well, you have to, in order to get a higher score, in order to reach this level, right, you need to have very proficient language use. Essays that score 4 or above demonstrate consistent language use, right? The organization is quite good, the ideas are well developed, there's clear topical unity, and also the language use is a lot more proficient. In other words, there are fewer mistakes. So essays above 4 are really demonstrating excellent language use. And the reason why they don't go to 5 is because there are some language use issues. Maybe they mix verbs, or some of the idioms are not right. Okay. So essays that score 4 and above are doing everything right. Not only that, but they have excellent language use. There's a control of grammar, vocabulary, and syntax. Generally, essays that are in the 3.75 or really below 4 are demonstrating, even though they're well organized and they understand introductions, thesis, body paragraphs, conclusions, what's keeping them low is a lack of language use. There is inconsistency in application of verbs, vocabulary, syntax, and punctuation. Okay. So in what I tell my students, my private students, is 4 is the dividing line. Okay. If you want to get above 4 or above, or 3.5, even around here, language use is the difference. Excellent and more consistent and proficient language use. Okay. So there we go. Any questions about that? So that is a 3.5. Okay. Interesting, right? So now I'll tell you something else. Okay. Now this is a Bruce trick. Okay. So this student got what? 3.5, right? So whoops, 3.5. What's 3.5? 3.5 is 22. Okay. So it's 22 out of 30. Okay. Now, how does that translate to a final TOEFL score? Okay. So if you go, TOEFL has 4 sections, right? And if you go 4 times 22, that equals 88. Okay, so if the TOEFL was one big writing test, this person would get 88 out of 120. Okay, so now on test day, um, I would predict that this student, because he got 88 out of 120, I predict that on TOEFL on test day, this student will score between 80 and 90. Okay, 80 and 90 out of 100. So basically, based on their writing score, I can actually predict a final TOEFL score. Okay. So, right. So I can give a range score between 80 and 90 based on the writing score, because really excellent writers get high scores, poor writers get low scores. Okay. So I would say that this writer, I would predict that on test day, this test taker would probably get about maybe 86, 87. Okay. Now, on a good day, 86, 87. Um, on a good day, this test taker could be more towards 90. On a bad day, test day could be more towards 80. Okay, so remember, TOEFL is very much a psychology test, psychological test, meaning how do you take how do you how do you like long tests? Can you sit for 3.5 hours and bear that kind of pressure? Okay, some people can do that, some people can't. It's easy to write an essay at home, drinking coffee or tea, eating baklava, but on test day, in a crowded test center with your future on the line, the pressure of the test situation is a lot different. Okay, so when I say a good day, that means if the student is rested and does a really good job, they're going to go towards 90. If they have a bad day, towards 80. Okay, so that's what I would predict, 80 and 90. Okay, so from the writing score, I can predict TOEFL scores. I'm very good at predicting TOEFL scores. Okay. So once again, the takeaway is make sure you read the prompt and answer the question in the prompt to stay on topic. Okay, and that one of the biggest problems I see is a lack of topical unity. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Pharmacy is 24, right? Exactly. Yep, I have a lot of pharmacy students. Okay. Any questions about that one? No? Okay. So that's my exercise for today. Rating a TOEFL essay with an emphasis on identifying a lack of topical unity and how it will reduce your score on test day, and how your writing score actually translates into a TOEFL range score and estimation. Okay. Any questions about that? Any questions about the essay that I just rated? Everything's okay? Any questions about TOEFL in general? Right. Remember, you got a question about TOEFL, I will be happy to answer it. If you're interested in TOEFL lessons, you can drop me a line. Okay, well, thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I will return to Planet TOEFL for more strategies and ideas for helping you get the TOEFL score you need to succeed. Okay. Thank you very much, and hopefully next session will be next Sunday. If you have any ideas, if you have any thoughts and questions you'd like me to answer in a session, let me know. Post it in the group. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day, okay? And happy Ramadan. Okay. Bye-bye.